The crystal towers of Valara gleamed under three suns, casting rainbow shadows across the throne room where Queen Nari stood alone. Her skin shimmered with soft blue light, the mark of royalty among her people. But today, that light flickered like a dying star. The council chamber was filled with her advisors, military commanders, and nobles. Every face she had trusted now looked at her with cold eyes. High Commander Mireille stood at the center, her own skin glowing with angry red pulses. "You have failed us," Mireille announced, her voice echoing through the vast hall. "The human colonies expand into our territory. They mine our asteroids. They reject our authority. And what does our queen do? She speaks of peace. She speaks of diplomacy." Nari held her head high. "War is not the only answer. The humans are not our enemies. They are simply trying to survive, just as we are." Laughter rippled through the council. Sharp, cruel laughter that cut deeper than any blade. "Survive?" Mireille stepped forward. "They are primitive creatures who barely left their own planet a century ago. They have no telepathy, no bioluminescence. They eat dead flesh and destroy their own world. They are beneath us. They are different from us," Nari said firmly. "That does not make them lesser." Her sister Heijin stood among the council members, silent. Nari looked at her, hoping for support, for just one voice to speak in her defense. But Heijin turned her gaze away. "I call for a vote," Mireille declared. "Queen Nari has shown weakness. She has refused to authorize military action against the human threat. She has rejected the expansion that would secure our empire's future. She is unfit to rule." "You cannot do this," Nari said, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "I am your queen by birthright, by the ancient laws. The ancient laws allow us to remove a ruler who endangers the empire," Mireille interrupted. "All in favor of exile?" Hands rose throughout the chamber. One by one, the people she had served, the nobles she had protected, the advisors she had trusted all voted against her. Nari counted them in her mind. 23, 27, 35, 40. When the count finished, the vote was unanimous. Even Heijin had raised her hand. "It is decided," Mireille said with satisfaction. "Nari, you are no longer queen. You are stripped of your title, your connection to the royal lineage, and your place among our people." Two guards approached. Nari wanted to fight, to use her psychic powers to defend herself. But what would that prove? That she was the tyrant they claimed she was? She let them take her arms. They walked her through corridors she had known her entire life. Past windows that showed the beautiful cities of Valara. Past gardens where she had played as a child. Past the memorial hall where statues of her ancestors stood in eternal watch. In the launch bay, a small escape pod waited. It was barely large enough for one person. Inside, there were supplies for maybe a week. No stasis chamber. No communication equipment. No weapons. "You are sending me to die," Nari said. "You are dying here anyway," Mireille replied. "At least this way, you die as an exile, not as a traitor executed before her people. Consider it mercy." They sealed her inside. Through the small window, Nari saw Heijin standing in the bay, watching. Their eyes met for a moment. Nari saw something in her sister's face, regret, perhaps, or fear. But then the pod launched, and Valara became a bright point of light that quickly faded into the darkness. Nari floated through space for 3 days. The pod had no navigation system, no engine beyond the initial launch thrust. She was at the mercy of gravity and momentum. Her bioluminescence grew dimmer with each passing hour. Without the connection to her people, without the telepathic network that had surrounded her since birth, she felt hollow inside. She thought about her choices. Had she been wrong? Should she have authorized the attacks on human colonies? Should she have put her people's expansion above all else? But no, she had seen the reports. The humans were not invading. They were exploring. They were building. They were doing what any species would do when they finally reached the stars. Why did that deserve destruction? On the fourth day, alarms blared inside the pod. Something was approaching. Nari's heart raced. Had Myre sent ships to finish her? Or perhaps pirates who would sell her to collectors who prized exotic species? Through the window, she saw a vessel. It was ugly by Velari standards, all hard angles and exposed metal, with mismatched hull plates and visible repair welds. Human construction. A cargo ship, perhaps, or a salvage vessel. The ship's bay doors opened, and a magnetic beam caught her pod, pulling it inside. Nari pressed herself against the far wall of the pod, trying to make her dim light go out completely. Maybe if she stayed very still, they would think the pod was empty. Maybe they would leave her alone. The bay doors closed. Atmosphere flooded the chamber. Then the pod door opened. 3 humans stood outside. 2 men and a floating sphere that appeared to be some kind of artificial intelligence. The older man stepped forward. He was tall, with dark hair and cautious eyes. He held no weapon. "Can you understand me?" he asked in the common trade language. Nari said nothing. "I'm Doyen. This is my ship. You're safe here. We're not going to hurt you." "Speak for yourself," the younger man said. "She's Velari. Our people have been raiding our colonies for months." "Taijin," Doyen said sharply. "She's half dead in an escape pod. She's not raiding anyone." The II sphere floated closer. Biosigns indicate severe dehydration and malnutrition. Psychic energy levels are critically low. Recommendation: immediate medical intervention. Nari found her voice. "Why did you stop?" Diane looked at her with something like sadness. "Because I couldn't leave you out there. Nobody deserves to die alone in space." "I am Velari," Nari said, testing him. "Your enemy. You're a person who needs help," Doyen replied. "Come on, let's get you to medical bay." He offered his hand. Nari stared at it. This human, this primitive creature her people despised, was showing her kindness. More kindness than her own council had shown. More than her own sister. Slowly, Nari reached out and took his hand. It was warm, solid, real done, as though Yoon helped her out of the pod. Nari wondered if perhaps her people had been wrong about more than just the war. Perhaps they had been wrong about everything, including what it meant to be civilized. The medical bay on the horizon's edge was small and cluttered with supplies. Nari sat on the examination table while Diane checked her vital signs with equipment that looked ancient by Velari standards. The AI, called Vera, hovered nearby, scanning her with beams of light. "Your biology is fascinating," Vera said cheerfully. "I'm detecting bioluminescent cells throughout your entire body. And your brain structure suggests telepathic capabilities." Nari corrected quietly. "I had telepathic capabilities. They severed my connection to the royal network." Diane looked up from the medical scanner. "That's possible? To just cut someone off like that?" "It is one of the punishments for exile." Nari touched her temple, where she used to feel the constant hum of thousands of minds connected to hers. Now there was only silence. "I can still sense emotions nearby, but I cannot speak mind to mind anymore. I cannot feel my people." "I'm sorry," Doyen said, and he sounded like he meant it. Taijin leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "So, what did you do? Must have been something serious for your own people to throw you out." "I refused to order attacks on human colonies," Nari said, meeting his suspicious gaze. "The council wanted war. I wanted peace. They decided peace was treason." Taijin's expression softened slightly, but he did not apologize for his earlier hostility. "Yeah, well, your people have killed a lot of humans. Makes it hard to trust. I understand, Nari said. And she did. If humans had killed Valari civilians, she would feel the same way. Over the next few days, Nari slowly recovered. Diane gave her his own quarters while he slept in the cargo bay. The food was strange. Humans ate such a variety of things, but she was too hungry to complain. She learned that Diane and Taijin were brothers who had left Earth 5 years ago. Diane had been a military pilot, but he left after a mission went wrong. He did not talk about the details. And Nari did not ask the ship was heading to a mining colony called Haven's Rest when the distress call came through. This is Haven's Rest to any vessels in range. A panicked voice crackled over the communication system. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Valari raiders are firing on civilian structures. We have children here. Please, anyone. The transmission cut off. Diane was on his feet immediately. Vera, plot a course. Maximum speed. Diane, no, Taijin said. We're a cargo ship. We have no weapons. We can't fight Valari raiders. We can't just ignore a distress call. We absolutely can ignore it. That's how we stay alive. Nari spoke up from her seat in the corner. He is right. Valari military vessels are heavily armed. This ship would not survive a direct confrontation. Diane turned to her. So we just let them die? Those are families down there. Workers. Children. I am not saying to do nothing, Nari said carefully. I am saying a direct attack would be foolish. But there are other ways. Taijin laughed bitterly. What? You're going to ask them nicely to stop? Nari stood. Give me access to your communication system. I know the military codes. I know their protocols. If I can get close enough, I can disrupt their weapon systems. You would do that? Diane asked. Help us against your own people? They are not my people anymore, Nari said quietly. They made that very clear. The horizon's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Haven's Rest system. Through the viewport, they could see the colony on a small moon. 3 Valari ships circled it like predators, firing pulse weapons at the buildings below. Vera, get us closer, Diane said. But keep us in the asteroid field. We need cover. Nari, are you sure about this? Taijin asked. She was not sure. She was terrified. But she nodded anyway. They moved through the asteroids, getting closer to the Valari ships. Nari closed her eyes and reached out with her remaining psychic abilities. It was harder without the royal network to amplify her power, but she could still sense the crews on those ships. She could feel their focus, their battle excitement, their complete certainty that what they were doing was right. Closer, she whispered. I need to be closer. Diane piloted them through impossible gaps in the asteroid field. One wrong move would tear the ship apart. But he flew like he was born to it, smooth and confident. When they were within range, Nari struck. She sent a psychic pulse toward the lead ship, targeting the weapons officer's mind. Not to hurt him, but to confuse him, to make him see false readings on his displays. The weapon's fire stopped momentarily. Then she hit the second ship and the third. Their weapons are offline, Vera reported. But they're recalibrating. This won't last long. Long enough, Diane said. Get everyone to the shelters. He broadcast to the colony below. You have maybe 3 minutes. The Valari ships had noticed them now. They were turning, weapons coming back online, targeting the horizon's edge. We need to leave, Taijin said urgently. Now, but Diane hesitated. There are still people evacuating down there. 30 seconds until they're in firing range, Vera warned. Nari reached out one more time with her power, pushing harder than she had before. She felt something tear inside her mind, a sharp pain like a nerve being severed. But she held the weapon systems offline for just a few more seconds. Everyone's in the shelters. The colony broadcast. "Get out of here." "Hold on," Diane said, and the ship spun away, engines roaring. The Valari ships fired, but the shots went wide. The horizon's edge disappeared into the asteroid field, taking damage from small impacts but surviving. Behind them, the Valari ships broke off their attack, apparently deciding the colony was not worth the risk now that they had been discovered. In the cargo bay, Nari collapsed. Blood ran from her nose, and her bioluminescence flickered wildly. Doyen caught her before she hit the floor. "Taijin, get the medical kit." "I am fine," Nari gasped, but she was not fine. She had pushed too hard, used too much power. Everything hurt. "You saved them," Doyen said softly, lowering her to the floor. "You saved all those people." "I could not let them die," Nari whispered. "I have seen enough death ordered in my name." Taijin returned with the medical supplies. As they worked to stabilize her, Nari looked up at Doyen. His face was filled with concern. Not for a queen. Not for a valuable prisoner. For her. Just her. "Why did you come back for me in that escape pod?" she asked. Doyen paused. "Because everybody deserves a chance. A choice. Your people didn't give you one. I wanted to." Nari felt something warm in her chest, something she had never felt before. On Velara, she had been alone even in a room full of people. She had been a symbol, a ruler, a title. Never just herself, but this human, with his worn clothes and his old ship and his strange food, saw her as consciousness faded. Nari realized something that would have horrified her council. These humans, these primitive creatures, understood something her advanced civilization had forgotten. They understood kindness. Nari woke 3 days later in Doyen's quarters. Her head still ached, but the sharp pain was gone. She sat up slowly and found Doyen asleep in a chair beside the bed, his head tilted at an uncomfortable angle. He had been watching over her. She studied his face in the dim light. Humans were strange to look at. No bioluminescence, no telepathic energy signature. Just skin and bone and determination. Yet there was something peaceful about him in sleep. Something that made her chest feel tight. His eyes opened. "You're awake. How do you feel?" "Like I pushed my mind too far," Nari admitted. "But I will recover." "Where are we?" "Heading to a station called Crossroads. It's neutral territory. Figured we could all use a rest." He stood and stretched. "Also, we need supplies. And information." "Information about what?" Doyen's expression grew serious. "Vara intercepted some Valari communications. There's a bounty on your head. A big one. Your High Commander Mireille wants you dead." Nari was not surprised. "Of course she does. I am a threat as long as I live. Even in exile, I could challenge her authority. Then, we need to figure out our next move." Doyen sat on the edge of the bed. "Taijin thinks we should drop you at Crossroads. Let you find your own way. It's not personal. He's just worried about the target on our backs. And what do you think?" Nari asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Doyen was quiet for a moment. "I think running isn't really living." "I think running isn't really living." "I think running isn't really living. I think you deserve better than hiding for the rest of your life. And I think..." He stopped, looking away. "I think I'd miss you if you left." Nari's heart beat faster. "I would miss you too." Their eyes met. In that moment, Nari felt something shift between them. It was not telepathy. It was something deeper. Something that needed no words. Over the next week, as they traveled to Crossroads Station, Nari and Doyen spent more time together. He taught her how to pilot the ship, laughing when she overcorrected and sent them spinning. She taught him some Valari history, the parts that were not about conquest and glory, but about art and philosophy. They shared meals in the small galley. Nari tried human coffee and hated it. Diane tried Valari nutrition paste and made a face that sent her into fits of laughter, actual laughter, something she had not done in years. You know what's funny? Diane said one evening as they sat together on the observation deck, watching stars stream past. On Earth, we used to dream about meeting aliens. We wondered if they'd be friendly or hostile, if they'd be like us or completely different. And here you are, royalty from an advanced civilization, and you're just you. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more alien, I guess. But you get frustrated and happy and scared, just like anyone else. You laugh at bad jokes. You hate coffee. He smiled. You're more human than you think. Is that a compliment? Yeah, Doyen said softly. It really is. Nari looked at him, this human who had saved her life, who saw her as more than her title. On Velara, I was always alone. Even surrounded by thousands of people, I was isolated. The Queen cannot have friends. She cannot show weakness. She cannot be anything except what the Empire needs her to be. That sounds exhausting. It was. Nari's bioluminescence flickered with emotion. But here, with you, I feel like I can just exist. No expectations. No duties. Just me. I like just you, Doyen said. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Nari asked the question that had been on her mind. Why did you leave the military? What happened? Doyen's expression darkened. We were ordered to destroy a station that intelligence said was a pirate base. Turned out it was full of refugees. By the time we realized the mistake, it was too late. 300 people died because we followed orders without questioning them. That was not your fault, wasn't it? I pulled the trigger. I trusted the intel without verifying. I did my duty. He looked at his hands. After that, I couldn't anymore. Couldn't just follow orders. Couldn't be part of a system that made mistakes like that. Nari reached over and took his hand. You are a good man, Doyen. You made a mistake, but you learned from it. You changed. That takes strength. So did standing up to your entire government, he said. We're both just trying to do better, I guess. A proximity alarm interrupted the moment. VER's voice came through the speakers. We're approaching Crossroads Station. Also, I'm detecting multiple ships on an intercept course. Configuration matches Velari military vessels. Diane was on his feet immediately. How did they find us? The bounty, Nari said grimly. Someone at Haven's Rest must have reported my presence. Or the ships we encountered. They rushed to the bridge. Through the viewport, they could see 5 Velari ships moving to surround them. These were not raiders. These were military hunters. We can't outrun them, Taijin said from the pilot's seat. And we definitely can't fight them. A transmission came through. Human vessel, surrender the Velari exile, and you will not be harmed. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Nari stepped forward. Let me go. There is no need for you to die for me. Absolutely not, Diane said. Doyen, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. You saved an entire colony. You chose humans over your own people. I'm not giving you up. A wild idea formed in Nari's mind. The station. If we can reach the station, we are on neutral ground. They cannot attack us without starting an incident with the other species. That's a big if, Taijin said. We're still 30 seconds out. Then we have 30 seconds, Doyen said. Vera, maximum power to engines. Reroute everything life support, weapons, shields, everything. That's insane, Taijin protested. You have a better idea? The ships surged forward. Behind them, the Velari ships fired. Energy blasts streaked past, some hitting the shields. Alarms blared. The hull groaned under the strain. 20 seconds. Vera announced that another hit rocked the ship. Sparks flew from a control panel. The lights flickered. Shields at 10%, Taijin reported. Keep going, Doyen ordered. Nari closed her eyes and reached out with her power one more time. She could not disable 5 ships, but maybe she could confuse their targeting systems for just a few seconds. She felt the now familiar pain as she pushed her abilities to their limit. But she held on. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. We're through. The horizon's edge crossed into Crossroads Station's defensive perimeter. Immediately, the station's automated defenses activated, warning the Velari ships to stand down. The Velari captains had a choice: retreat or start a war with every species represented on the station. They retreated. In the sudden quiet, Diane turned to Nari. She was swaying on her feet, blood running from her nose again. He caught her before she fell. "You need to stop doing that," he said, but there was no anger in his voice. Only concern. "I needed to keep you safe," Nari whispered. "We keep each other safe," Doyen said. "That's how this works." As he helped her to the medical bay, Nari realized that she had found something she never expected. Not just safety, not just kindness, but belonging. For the first time in her life, she was part of something real, and she was not going to let that go without a fight. Crossroads Station was unlike anything Nari had ever seen. It was a massive structure built from the combined efforts of 7 different species. Human modules connected to Velari crystal corridors, which merged with organic Kalari living spaces. It was chaos, but somehow it worked. Doyen kept close to her as they walked through the crowded marketplace. Taijin had stayed with the ship for repairs. Vera monitored the station's communications for any threats. "We need to figure out our next move," Doyen said. "We can stay here for a while, but that bounty is only going to attract more hunters." "I have an idea," Nari said. "But you will not like it. Try me. We go to Earth. I request asylum from the Terran Coalition. If humanity officially protects me, Myre cannot hunt me without risking war." Diane stopped walking. "That's actually not a bad plan. But the Coalition doesn't trust Velari. Getting them to grant you asylum will be difficult." "I know. But if anyone can convince them that not all Velari support the war, it is me. I am proof, but some of us want peace." They found a quiet corner in a human-run cafe. As they discussed the plan, Nari felt eyes on her. A group of humans at a nearby table were staring. One of them stood and approached. "You're Velari," the man said. He was young, maybe Taijin's age. His voice shook with anger. "My sister died in a raid on Mercury Station. Your people killed her." Nari's bioluminescence dimmed with shame. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Sorry? That's all you have to say?" Diane stood, placing himself between them. "She's not your enemy. She's the reason Haven's Rest is still standing. She saved human lives. One good deed doesn't make up for what her people have done." "You're right," Nari said quietly, standing as well. "It does not. Nothing I do will bring your sister back. But I am trying to stop more deaths. I stood against my own government to prevent more attacks. They exiled me for it." The man studied her face. His anger did not disappear, but it softened slightly. "What's your name?" "Nari. I'm BM, and I hope you're telling the truth. Because if you're not, if this is some kind of trick..." He did not finish the threat. He did not need to. After being left, Doyen sat back down. "You handled that well. He has every right to hate me. My people have caused suffering. I cannot pretend otherwise. But you're trying to change things. That matters." They spent 2 more days on the station, gathering supplies and information. Vera discovered that Mireille had consolidated power on Velara. She had declared herself empress and was preparing a major military campaign against human territory. Time was running out. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Nari and Doyun grew even closer. They spent long hours talking, sharing stories, learning about each other's worlds. One night, in the observation deck, Doyun kissed her dot. It was gentle, tentative, like he was afraid she might pull away. But Nari leaned into him, her bioluminescence brightening with joy. When they finally separated, she touched her lips in wonder. Was that acceptable? Doyun asked, suddenly uncertain. It was perfect, Nari said. On Velara, the queen is not permitted romantic attachments. It was considered a distraction from duty. But I am not a queen anymore. What are you then? I am Nari, and I am falling in love with a human. She said it simply, honestly. Doyun smiled. I'm falling in love with you too. Not the queen. Just you. They held each other as the stars streamed past. Two souls from different worlds finding something neither expected. When they reached Earth, the reality of their situation hit them. The Terran Coalition Council was skeptical of Nari's request for asylum. She stood before representatives from 20 different human nations and colonies, all of them watching her with suspicion. You are the first Vailari to ever request asylum, the council chair said. Why should we trust you? How do we know this is not some elaborate trick? Nari had prepared for this question. Because I have already proven my loyalty. I disabled Vailari ships attacking Haven's Rest. I have shared intelligence about Murray's military plans. I have chosen humanity's side over my own people's. You claim to support peace, another representative said. But you ruled Valara for 7 years. You authorized the construction of warships. You expanded your territory. I did, Nari admitted. I made choices I regret. I believed I could change things from within, that I could slowly shift my people toward peace. I was wrong. The council was too strong, too committed to expansion. When I finally stood against them openly, they removed me. Why should one exile change our policy? Someone asked. Your people are still attacking our colonies. Because I represent the possibility of change. Not all Vailari support my ray. Many are afraid to speak out, but they are there. If you grant me asylum, you send a message that humanity welcomes those who choose peace. You create hope for others like me. The debate went on for hours. Some representatives wanted to reject her immediately. Others saw the strategic value of harboring a Vailari exile. But the decision was not made that day. Nari and Doyun waited in a small apartment the coalition had provided. 3 days passed. Then a week. Nari grew restless, worried that the council would reject her. On the 8th day, VERA alerted them to an incoming transmission. It was from a Vailari ship. I'll answer it, Nari said, her stomach churning with fear. Maybe it is someone sympathetic to my cause. She accepted the transmission. The face that appeared on the screen made her breath catch. It was Hai-Jin. Her sister looked tired. Her bioluminescence was dim, and her eyes held a sadness that had not been there before. Nari, Hai-Jin said softly. I know you can hear me. I am here to deliver a message from Empress Myray. Empress? Nari's voice was bitter. She has crowned herself? Yes, and she has sent me to offer the coalition a deal. Return you to Valara for trial, and the attacks will stop. We will withdraw from human territory and sign a peace treaty. That is a lie, Nari said. Myray will never agree to peace. She's using me as bait. I know, Hai-Jin said, and her voice cracked. But the coalition does not know that. They are considering her offer. Nari, I am sorry. I should have defended you in the council. I was afraid, and I let them exile you. But I have seen what Myray has done since taking power. The executions, the censorship, the fear. You were right about everything. Then help me, Nari said. Stand with me now. Hai-Jin hesitated. I cannot. If I defect, Mireille will kill everyone I care about. But I can do something else. I can challenge you to a royal duel. By Velari law, it is your right as the former queen. A duel? Nari had not thought about the ancient laws in weeks. I have not trained in months. My psychic powers are damaged. I would lose. Maybe. But it would give you a chance. And it would force the coalition to see that you are not running away. You are fighting for what you believe in. Diane stepped into view of the camera. This is a trap. Mireille wants Nari dead. Of course it is a trap, Hyjin said. But it is also the only way forward. Nari, if you win, you reclaim your throne. You can stop the war. If you lose, she did not finish the sentence. When and where? Nari asked. 3 days. Neutral space near the coalition border. Mireille has agreed to honor the duel's outcome as required by law. After the transmission ended, Dayun turned to Nari. You can't do this. You said yourself your powers are damaged. I know. But Hyjin is right. This is the only way to end the conflict. If I refuse, I am just a coward running from my responsibilities. You're not a coward. You're the bravest person I know. Nari took his hands. Then trust me. I did not survive exile just to hide forever. I need to face my past. Doyoung pulled her close. If you do this, I'm coming with you. Whatever happens, we face it together. Together, Nari agreed, feeling his warmth and strength flow into her. She just hoped it would be enough. The dueling ground was an ancient Velari tradition. A circular platform surrounded by empty space, with witnesses from both sides watching from their ships. Nari stood at one end in traditional ceremonial robes that Hyjin had sent her. Across the platform, Hyjin waited in similar attire. Dayun watched from the horizon's edge, his heart heavy. Taijin stood beside him, unusually quiet. Even Vera had stopped her usual commentary. The rules are simple, Marie's voice echoed across the communication channels. She was watching from her flagship. A psychic duel to submission or death. The winner claims the throne. The loser accepts whatever fate the winner decrees. Hyjin and Nari approached each other. For a moment, they were close enough to speak privately. I am sorry, Hyjin whispered. For everything. I know, Nari replied. And I forgive you. Do not hold back, Hyjin said. I will not. They moved to their positions. A chime sounded, and the duel began. Hyjin struck first, a wave of psychic energy that slammed into Nari's mind. Nari staggered but held her ground. She countered with a focused beam of thought, targeting her sister's defenses. The battle was invisible to those watching, but both sisters felt every blow. Hyjin was stronger. Her connection to the royal network gave her immense power. Nari could feel herself weakening with each exchange. But she had something Hyjin did not. She had already lost everything. She had nothing left to fear. Nar, I changed tactics. Instead of fighting power with power, she opened her mind completely. She showed Hyjin everything, the loneliness of rule, the pain of exile, the kindness she found among humans. She showed her Dayun and Taijin, and the people of Haven's Rest. She showed her what could be, if only they chose differently. See what I have seen, Nari projected. Feel what I feel. This is not weakness. This is strength. Hyjin hesitated, overwhelmed by the flood of emotions. In that moment of doubt, Nari pressed her advantage. But she did not try to destroy her sister's mind. She simply pushed until Hyjin fell to her knees, exhausted. Yield, Nari said aloud. Please, sister, yield. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Hyjin bowed her head. I yield. Gasps rippled through the watching ships. Nari had won. By law, she was queen again. But before anyone could react, Marie's voice cut through the silence. No, this is not acceptable. The exile cheated. She used human trickery to weaken the rightful queen. I used only my psychic abilities, Nari said firmly. As the law permits, you are corrupted by human influence. You are unfit to rule. Marie's flagship moved forward, weapons charging. I will not accept this outcome. You must, Haijin said, standing despite her exhaustion. She turned to face Marie's ship. She won fairly. By ancient law, Nari is queen. You are weak just like her, Mireille snarled. Both of you are traitors. Energy weapons powered up. Mireille was going to fire on the platform, breaking every sacred law of their people. But then something unexpected happened. Other Velari ships in Mireille's fleet began to power down their weapons. One by one, captains spoke up. The law is clear. Mireille, stand down. We followed you because we thought you would make us strong. But strength without honor is nothing. The duel was fair. Nari has won. Mireille realized she was losing control. In a final act of desperation, she ordered her flagship to fire. But her own weapons officer refused the command. I will not break sacred law, the officer said. Not even for you. Mireille's voice became a scream of rage. You all traitors. Every one of you. But her power was broken. Without her fleet's support, she was just one angry voice in the darkness. The Terran coalition ships that had been watching moved forward. The coalition chair's voice came through the channels. Queen Nari, on behalf of humanity, we recognize your rightful claim to the throne. We also offer our support in rebuilding a Velari government that pursues peace. Nari stood on the platform, Haijin beside her, and felt the weight of rule settle on her shoulders again. But this time, it felt different. This time, she had chosen it. Thank you, she said. But I do not wish to rule the Velari Empire as it was. I wish to rebuild it into something better. A government that values all life, not just Velari life. A civilization that seeks understanding, not domination. Those are ambitious goals, the coalition chair said. I know, and I cannot do it alone. I ask for Earth's help, for humanity's help. Together, we can create something neither of our species could build alone. Over the following months, everything changed. Mireille was arrested by her own crew and exiled, just as she had exiled Nari. Haijin became Nari's advisor, helping to navigate the complex politics of reform. Many Velari resisted the changes, but slowly, others began to see the value in Nari's vision. The Horizon's Edge became the first ship of a new joint task force, the Frontier Accord. Its mission was to protect colonies, broker peace between species, and explore unknown space. Diane was offered command, with Nari as his partner. The wedding was held on the platform where Nari had won her duel. It was a small ceremony by royal standards, just close friends and family. Haijin stood beside Nari, tears streaming down her face. Taijin officiated, with Vera providing commentary that made everyone laugh. Diane wore a simple suit. Nari wore a dress that combined Velari crystal weaving with human design. When they exchanged vows, Nari spoke from her heart. You found me when I had lost everything. You showed me kindness when I expected cruelty. You taught me that strength is not about power, but about compassion. I was a queen who ruled alone. Now I am simply Nari, and I choose to walk beside you, always. Diane took her hands. You showed me that doing the right thing is never wrong, even when it costs everything. You taught me that change is possible, that peace is worth fighting for. I was a man running from his past. Now I'm ready to build a future. With you. They kissed as humans and Velari alike cheered. It was not a perfect moment. There were still tensions between species, still problems to solve, still enemies who opposed the new order. But it was a beginning. Later, on the bridge of the Horizon's Edge, Nari and Doyan prepared for their first official mission. The ship had been upgraded with both human and Valari technology. Taijin manned the engineering station. Vera hummed with excitement. "Ready?" Diane asked, taking Nari's hand. She looked at him, this human who had saved her life and stolen her heart. She thought about how far she had come from lonely queen to exiled prisoner to something new entirely. She was no longer defined by her species or her title. She was defined by her choices. "Ready," she said. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying them into the unknown. Behind them, two species that had been enemies were learning to be allies. Ahead, countless worlds waited to be explored. Nari had been rejected by her own people. She had lost her throne, her power, her place in the world. But in losing everything, she had found something far more valuable. She had found herself. And she had found love, not because she was a queen and he was a hero, but because she was Nari and he was Doyan. Two people from different worlds who chose each other despite everything that should have kept them apart. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Nari leaned against Doyan's shoulder. For the first time in her life, she was truly free. Free to choose her path. Free to love who she wanted. Free to build the future she believed in. "What are you thinking?" Diane asked softly. Nari smiled, her bioluminescence glowing with pure happiness. "I am thinking that perhaps my people were right to exile me. Because if they had not, I never would have found you. I never would have learned what it means to truly live." "No regrets?" "None," Nari said. "Only gratitude. And hope." Outside, the universe stretched endlessly before them. Full of challenges, yes. Full of dangers. But also full of possibilities. And they would face it all together, not as queen and subject. Not as alien and human, but as partners, as equals, as two souls who had found each other across the vast darkness of space and decided to hold on. The story of the fallen queen, who found love with a human, was just beginning. But it was already a story worth telling, a reminder that sometimes losing everything is the first step to gaining something far more precious. Sometimes being rejected is the greatest gift of all, because it forces you to find out who you truly are when all the titles and expectations are stripped away. And in that raw truth, in that vulnerable honesty, real connection becomes possible. Nari had been a queen. Now she was simply herself, and that, she had learned, was more than enough.